So thank you all for being here. My name is Marcus Cederström. I'm a folklorist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Super excited to be co-hosting here with fellow UW folklorist and ethnomusicologist Nate Gibson. And we are pleased to welcome a presentation and performance by Eric Peltoniemi. For those of you joining us for the very first time, this is part of our year-long and virtual FinnFest, so welcome. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank FinnFest for organizing this wonderful series of events, and also then the Center for the Study of Upper Midwestern Cultures at UW-Madison and the Sustaining Scandinavian Folk Arts in the Upper Midwest Project, which is also known as Nordic Folk Life, of which I and Nate are a part. Proud to be co-sponsoring this performance and the other events in the Finnish American Music series throughout 2021. We're getting close to about 100 people here today supporting FinnFest and Finnish American music. I see some of you introducing yourselves in the chat, which I love to see. We've got people from San Diego, out in California, some folks here in Wisconsin, some folks in Michigan, Minnesota, of course. Great to see so many people along for this presentation. This is a live program held on the Zoom webinar platform. So what that means is that the presenters can't see or hear the audience, and that the audience members can't see or hear each other. They can definitely see and hear us, hopefully. If not, please put that in the chat. We will have time for questions at the end. You can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions, and then I'll share those questions with Eric and Nate as well. We are recording this session, and then we'll be sharing it through the FinnFest website, as well as on the Center for the Study of Upper Midwestern Cultures YouTube channel. We'll send all this stuff out at the end after the links are up. We've been really excited to see how many people are engaging with this material after the fact. So please, please, please do, if you lose the internet connection or if you have to take off early, please watch for that link and check it out later on YouTube. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Nate to introduce today's presentation. Nate, take it away.
Thanks, Marcus. Super happy to be here today. Hello, everybody. With Eric Peltoniemi. This is an exciting afternoon. We get to hear from Eric, who is a Finnish American Minnesota-based singer, songwriter, composer, lyricist. Stop me at any point if I say something that's not true, Eric. But he's been performing for an awful long time. He's made recordings in Finnish, English, and Finnglish. He's recorded in Finland and the United States. He has performed at Kaustinen, among other places in Finland. He has appeared on multiple Finnish record labels. He also ran Red House Records, and as an executive, has been a part of that label for 3 decades, and won a Grammy Award in 1995 for co-producing the Folk Album of the Year. He's also been featured in the film Ikitie, which won the Finnish version of the Oscar, which is called the Jussi, and it features his song Punainen. He's also very involved in musical theater and writing productions for theater. He's done 11 musical plays, at least, maybe more, but several award-winning ones, including 10 November and Plain Hearts was another. Basically, I consider him sort of the Finnish American Lin-Manuel Miranda. He sort of got the EGOT thing going, with awards in all of these different categories. And so it's really a privilege to have him here. And we're going to hear some music. We're going to hear some stories. Eric, I'd like you to tell us a bit about yourself in terms of where you grew up. How did you grow up in Minnesota and sort of connect with your Finnish heritage? And I thought that might be a good launching place for us to talk about your music.
Would you rephrase your question a little bit?
Yeah, can you tell us a bit about growing up in the Finnish Triangle in Minnesota and sort of how you connected with your Finnish heritage? What sort of influences made you think about?
Sure. Well, my father is the Finnish member of my family, and he was his father was actually born in the United States, but barely. His mother came from an area in Finland we call it Minneapolis, which was where they speak this border lingo of Finnish and Swedish up on the above the Gulf of Bothnia. His grandfather came from Kävelin, which is above the Arctic Circle in Lapland. But my dad was exceedingly proud of being Finnish. He grew up in a Finnish town. So having a long Finnish name with 10 letters, I was stuck with being Finnish whether I wanted to or not in this town. But we were exceedingly proud of it. My dad we used to go to sauna every couple of weeks over to my grandfather's, and when the sauna was heated up, and my dad would read to us an English version of Kalevala, which was the Finnish epic poem, and we grew up with those myths in our head and so forth. And we had family friends who were very Finnish too, and so we were kind of immersed in it, I guess you might say. Much to my mother's chagrin, she didn't realize that. We don't know at the time that she was actually part Finnish, but because her mother was from Sweden, and DNA has proved otherwise. But she was always kind of mad because the Finn was being shoved down our throats all the time in her mind. But it was great. Oddly enough, though, the musical part of my Finnish background is sort of non-existent in my bottom level, because my family were all Laestadian Lutherans, and they were very conservative, and there wasn't a whole lot of dancing or music over there. But we had family friends who brought it to me, and so I started to become interested in it. We had I lived in Wadena, which is actually the outer fringe of the Finnish Triangle, but we had a music store that was owned by a very entrepreneurial man, and he realized there are all kinds of Finns all around, and he began importing albums directly from Finland. And he had a whole section of Finnish LPs, vinyl. Back when we were even in junior high school, my brother and I would just go down there and spend all our money on these records. And so we were listening, ironically, probably more to what was going on in the current Finnish folk scene at the time in Finland than we were to actual ethnic music in our own neighborhood. Some of the people I've come to know over the years and worked with in Finland were people whose records I listened to. So it's been kind of funny that way. But we also had a family friend who I considered kind of really important in my becoming a singer of Finnish songs. A woman named Yrjö Hansen, she was a widow, and she had a women's clothing store. And up above it, she had an apartment above Main Street, which was kind of exotic because we all lived in houses. She lived up on top. And she was a world traveler, and she had all this curious stuff up there. It was kind of like a little magical place. I used to go up there, and she would play me Finnish songs, and she started giving me songbooks and teaching me songs. And I think that's really where it all began for me, was with Yrjö. I have to give all the credit to on that.
That is awesome. Do you remember the first Finnish song that you learned?
Well, my mother tells me what it was. I can't remember it, but when I was, there's a lullaby called Hikkuri Kakkuri, which is about kind of a children's play song about a loon, actually, that comes from Finland. It's a popular children's song over there. Apparently, from the time I was born, whenever I was a small child, I'd go over there. My grandfather was holding me on his knee, singing that song to me all the time. And but I think it might have been. I think I'm gonna, when I do start singing today, I think I might sing a song that's one of the first ones. It's a very beautiful song. It's for a lot of people. It's very well known. It's an old folk song, but it talks about wandering through a valley one beautiful summer evening and coming across this woman playing the kantele and singing a song. And he's struck by it's probably the most beautiful sight he ever saw. And so the song is just all about that. So
That sounds like a pretty good introduction to a song. Do you want to start with that and then
okay.
we'll follow up with questions.
It's also good for breaking my voice in today.
All right, great.
It's called Old Kaunis, Kesäilta on a summer's evening. Old Kaunis, Kesäilta, kun laksossa kävelin. Old Kaunis, Kesäilta, kun laksossa kävelin. Siellä kohtasin mä tytön, jota aina muistelen. Siellä kohtasin mä tytön, jota aina muistelen. Hän kantelolla soitti ja laulun lauleli. Hän kantelolla soitti ja laulun lauleli. Se tunteeni voitti ja heltyi sydämeni. Se tunteeni voitti ja heltyi sydämeni. Old kaunis kesäilta, kun laksossa kävelin. Old kaunis kesäilta, kun laksossa kävelin. Siellä kohtasin mä tytön, jota aina muistelen. Siellä kohtasin mä tytön, jota aina muistelen. That's probably the oldest one I know.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So you did mention something I thought I might follow up with you on. You mentioned going to the record store with your brother,
Mm-hmm.
and that you didn't grow up in a really extremely musical family, but I know that you and your brother both played music around this same time. Can you talk a little bit about playing music with Kip and some of the influences you guys had?
My brother is active, if not more so than I was sometimes. I'd go down there. There was one of my best friend's mothers worked in this store, and whenever a new Finnish album would come into the racks, she'd let me or my brother know that there's some new Finnish albums, and we just go tearing down there. But often Kip was ahead of me on some of these artists. He was about a lot of things in life. Even though he's my younger brother, he was usually ahead of me on many trends and so forth in music. But yeah, I think it was kind of a competitive thing. When we did play together, we played in rock bands and stuff like that around the area. But as far as the Finnish music goes, he wanted to, I think, diversify from me playing guitar, and so he got into button accordion, and which he really took to. And in later years, we both began to perform together. We do so now and then to this day. But he's quite a great artist in his own behalf in Finnish folk music. He's performed a lot in Finland as well. And he even taught a little bit at Sibelius Academy and on button box, because he has a very signature button box style, which is not very common. So
yeah, it's really, really interesting to see that both of you sort of started in music together and then sort of had separate but divergent musical paths, but also doing similar things.
We have a lot of the same friends. A lot of our friends are in Finland. All of our friends in Finland are the same people. And so when he went over to record his albums, he played with a lot of the same people I do when I go over there. So, but we've yet to perform there together.
Yeah, upcoming project perhaps.
Yep, I think so. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, can you tell us more about your projects in Finland? Because you just mentioned, as you said, you have done recordings in Finland, several of them. And I know you've worked with Arto Järvelä over there.
He's my brother from a previous marriage. It's my joking title for him. And also Kimmo Poihinen is another close friend, and Hannu Saha and Antti Kettunen, and a lot of these performers over there are good friends of mine. One of my closest friends, Vesa Kartinen in Helsinki, is a musician too. And he's also was the owner of one of the labels I recorded for. It was funny because, all through this time that I was getting interested in Finnish folk music, I also got interested in all kinds of folk music, whether it was American or European folk music or whatever. And I dived into it very deep. I was as deep as a lot of people in my generation. I had a huge stack of Folkways albums and that sort of thing. Used to buy old county records and field recordings and different things like that. And I also played country music when I first started as well, old style country. So I was used to being, and especially when I got into the label and that, I was used to being on the folklorist, sort of like you are, the folklorist end of this picture, because of my dealings were mostly with American folk music. And there was a project that was done back in the early 90s. I don't know who funded it, but Hannu Saha, Kimmo Poihinen, and Arto Järvelä, and also a great late Finnish folklorist, Simo Westerholm, came. I think even Ilkka Kohlmainen came too, but they all came and they were here to collect. They wanted to get to all these old Finnish guys in the UP and northern Wisconsin before they died and record them all. And they were coming back to the Twin Cities, and they asked somebody if they knew anybody who sang Finnish folk songs in the Twin Cities. And I don't know how they got my name, because I always played Finnish folk songs just for myself. I didn't perform them out very much. But they called me up and asked if they could record me. Hannu came over in Arto. And I played them some songs. I was kind of afraid to play them for them because my accent is not the greatest, and so forth. And I take great liberties with Finnish folk music, I have to say. And so they loved it. And so then a while later, they called and asked if I would want to record an album over there. So I figured, well, they really must like it. I didn't know why, but I thought, okay, great. And we did one. And then I was invited to perform at a special Kaustinen folk festival, which was called Juuret Suomessa, which means roots in Finland. And so they invited a lot of American Finns over to perform that year at Kaustinen. And they got us plane tickets on Suomi Airlines. It was all quite exciting. And I went to JFK, got on Suomi and plane, and I went to, they really promoted it well, because when I got on the plane and I put on the headset with music, I was on it, on the airplane. So I was kind of in shock.
Pretty great.
But that's, I felt so weird to be field collected, going back to that, to be field collected myself, because I felt like, geez, I'm more of an academic than that, and about some of this stuff. So it was a strange experience, but it's changed my life, really. It has. I've gone over to Finland. I'd only been there once before, and I've been there many times now. And so it's been great.
Would you care to play us one of the songs that had been field collected by you?
Okay. I'll play another. There's two of them that kind of got popular they used to, like the United States, there used to be a lot more folk music on the radio in Finland. Now it's all been opened up since the European Union, and it's harder to find folk on the radio over there now. But there were two songs that I did that were played quite a bit over there. And I'll play the first one. It's another ballad type that I just sang, and it's called Kävelin Kerran. And this is one I took a lot of liberty with. I don't know, probably most people who are watching this aren't familiar with some of the American folk scene, but some of them are. One of the folk artists that I admired the most was Spider John Kerner and his colleagues Dave Ray and Tony Glover and Kerner Ray and Glover. And John was great about taking old familiar folk songs and just kind of reinventing them. And I didn't realize that that's actually what I had been doing with Finnish folk music. So it's kind of a similar thing. Kävelin Kerran is usually sung in a very lilting, jolly little song about rowing across the lake and so forth. But I was always struck by these sort of melancholy, dark verse, a couple of verses in there, and I thought they should be rearranged. So I set them to new music. The words say, once while standing at the mouth of the river, the troubled water of the river, so I imagine it was a rapids, I heard a bird singing from a leafy tree on the shore. I asked the bird what his name was, and he answered me slyly, friendship, hope, and love last but a day or three, a day or two. So very cynical, but I did it, and it's got to be very popular. I heard it in campfires at Kävelin, and when I was walking around, it was just kind of striking to me. Oh, kaunis, kesäilta. That's the one I just sang. Let's start over. I'm nervous, folks. There's thousands of you out there. Let's try that again. Kävelin Kerran kultani kanssa. Ongelman joen suussa. Kävelin kerran kultani kanssa. Ongelman joen suussa. Kuulin sen linnun laulavan. Kuulin sen linnun laulavan. Kuulin sen linnun laulavan. Kestävi päivänä ja kaksi. It should have been rannalla lehti kuussa. Kysyin sen linnun nimiä ja se vastasi viekkaasti. Kysyin sen linnun nimiä ja se vastasi viekkaasti. Ystävyys, toivo ja rakkaus. Ystävyys, toivo ja rakkaus. Ystävyys, toivo ja rakkaus. Kestävi päivä ja kaksi. Thank you. Thank you. I actually ended the first verse with the last line of the song. Maybe I was in a hurry to finish, I guess. This is the other one that was kind of popular. This is another one. I took two songs, Finnish songs, and put them together because they fit really well to have a middle section. My grandfather and his brothers and a lot of people who came over from Finland worked either in the mines, either in Michigan up in the copper mines or the iron mines in Minnesota. And a lot of them cut timber in lumber crews and so forth. My grandfather was a farmer, but he would go up periodically in the winter and work in a logging camp. I think he even did some stints in the Cuyuna Iron Range when he was younger too. So I was fascinated with some of the old logging songs from Finland. This is one called Käki, Cuckoo, and which means the cuckoo is calling or cuckooing. If anybody's not a Finnish speaker, cuckoo in this phrase is not the bird. Käki is the cuckoo. So Käki, Cuckoo, the cuckoo is cuckooing. But the cuckoo is always a sign of, in the spring, of that the summer is coming, and so it's a joyful time. It's also a time when the loggers were coming back from being in the logging camps all winter. And so the song describes the loggers coming down the river on the log rafts, singing their songs. You could hear them coming. And on the shore, all the girls who've been waiting for them, dressed in their white blouses, kind of, and soon we'll be getting the dancing time. So this is Käki, Cuckoo. This was probably my most popular song over there. Käki, Cuckoo, kuusikossa, koivikossa on pesä. Käki, Cuckoo, kuusikossa ja koivikossa on pesä. Taaskin on tulleet tukkipojat ja kaunis lämmön kesä. Taaskin on tulleet tukkipojat ja kaunis lämmön kesä. Pojat ne lähtee pontultaansa ja laulusta raikkumattiin. Pojat ne lähtee pontultaansa ja laulusta raikkumattiin. Tytöt vartoo valkeisansa ja tanssii tahtiin. Tytöt vartoo valkeisansa ja tanssii tahtiin. Cuckoo is calling high from the spruces, her nest is in the birch grove. Cuckoo is calling high from the spruces, nesting in the birch grove. And here once again come the lumbermen, and beautiful and warm as summer. Here once again come the lumbermen, and beautiful and warm as summer. Out on the log raft, listen to their music ringing across the bay. Out on the log raft, listen to their music ringing across the bay. The girls all in white waiting on the shore, and so begins the dancing time. Girls in white blouses wait on the shore, and so begins the dancing time. Yo,
Yes, beautiful.
Thanks.
Eric, both of those songs that you just played for us were part of your Suomi album, correct?
Yes, they were. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that album? That's an entire album of Finnish tunes that you did, right?
Right. Well, there's a couple English songs on there, but that album was kind of, it had some of the tracks on that were singles before, and they were put together and then recorded some more when I went over to Finland. It was funny because I was in a very kind of a regionally popular folk group at the time called Trova, which didn't do any Finnish music, but we had a lot of gigs, put it that way. And I got a call from Finland saying that they were doing this special concert in this venue in Helsinki of all the artists on Aino Records, which was the record label I'd been recording singles on. And it was going to be on a Wednesday, and they said, we want you there. And so unfortunately we had two gigs on the previous weekend and 2 gigs on the last weekend. I said, well, I really can't do that. I have these commitments on both weekends on either side of this date. And they said, well, can you come anyway? And so we'll do it quick and dirty. So not to the happiness of my bandmates that I was actually taking this risk, I flew to Helsinki, and I didn't sleep the entire time I was there. I got there and we just, they thought, well, here, let's do some more recordings. So we went in the studio and we recorded. We had a great evening concert with a lot of great artists that were on the label, and had a great time. Then we did some more recording the next day. Then I hopped on a plane, came back, and I made it just in time to go to the next gig. And so it was, but the album we called Suomi, because it was all an American's viewpoint of the motherland. And so that's how that happened. It's a lot of my friends were playing on it. Arto and Kimmo were on there, and Hannu. Hannu's a great kantele player, scholar of kantele. And he played on Kävelin Kerran, some beautiful kantele, which is appropriate. And then Kimmo and Arto really rocked out on Käki. So it was fun to have all those guys on there.
Well, there was a tune on that record, I think, that you told me a bit about changing some lyrics since.
Oh yeah, that would be the title track, Suomi.
Would that be good? Would now be a good time to transition to that story?
Sure, that would be good. It was funny because, well, not funny, but when I was raised, I told you earlier, well, we were raised to be Finnish boys, my brother and I, and we were quite happy to do that. But the old imperial flag of the Finnish Grand Duchy in the old days, which was carried into the 20th century after Finland became a free republic, was there for a while. Not only did you have the blue cross on the flag, but you had this red shield in the middle with this lion rampant in the coat of arms with a sword in its hand, stepping on a scimitar, which represented the East and Russia and so forth, and it was conquering all the forces from the East coming at them. And I thought that was such a cool thing being a young guy. I thought, that's really great. So I had a line in the song called, just the first lines went, oh Suomi, the lion dancing on the sword, the greater part of me. And because it was evocative to me. And that was many years ago. This was about 1990, I guess you might say. Well, of course, as we've seen here in this country and all around the world has changed quite a bit. There's a lot of people in transit around the world as refugees and so forth, and people are moving into former countries that were pretty homogenic. So we were getting these movements in Finland and Sweden and Norway, just like they are here, of kind of far right hatred of people coming in, and kind of, it's easy, we used to throw this word around a lot when I was younger, but now we actually can. They're sort of neo-fascist organizations. And so one of them is a group called the Sons of Odin, and which is a very nasty group in Finland. And their symbol is the lion rampant on that scimitar. And my friend Hannu's son, Topi, is a singer. He also says, you can't sing that line anymore. This song. You just can't. It's loaded. So I changed the line, my home mind on a foreign strand, which is, I think, a lot better rhyme anyway. And it's not as weird. So I can play that song if you'd like.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. It was funny because I don't mean funny. Just a couple of years ago, we had the 100th anniversary of the Finnish Republic and independence in Finland. And we had a big gala celebration. It was put on by some various organizations at Orchestra Hall here in Minneapolis. And I was invited to sing at it. And it was really a great event. And we had, one thing the people insisted was that I sing this song. And we actually had a full choir behind it of about probably 40 people, which was in a great arrangement. It was quite exciting. But most of the people, or half of the people in this group, were actually Finns who've moved to the United States, so they're missing homeland even more. So this song, they told me, actually resonates very deeply with them, even though they're from Finland, but they have been there away so long. So this is for all the expats as much as it is for us second and third generations. Let me see if it's the key. Oh, Suomi, oh, Suomi, my homeland on a foreign strand, the greater part of me, and wherever I roam, through this world alone, in my heart you'll always be, Suomi. Thank you for my fortitude and the iron in my back, as I lean my shoulder to the wheel out on the frozen track. Though my face is to the wind, I don't feel the cold. The steamy smell of wood smoke is warming up my soul. Oh, Suomi, oh, Suomi, my homeland on a foreign strand, the greater part of me, and wherever I roam, through this world alone, in my heart you'll always be, Suomi. Thank you for embracing me. Thank you for your love. How can I ever tell you that it's a love that I'm so proud of? It's given me my body, given me my name, given me the blood of life running in my veins. Oh, Suomi, oh, Suomi, from the tundra down to the forest lake, down to the Baltic Sea, and wherever I roam, through this world alone, in my heart you'll always be, always brave and proud and free, always a better part of me. Suomi.
That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank
We
you.
got a while you were singing that, Eric, we got a comment in the comment section from Gene Miller who says, I was part of that choir and it was so special. It's
Oh,
just
great.
awesome to
It
hear.
was awesome. Yeah, it really was. Yeah, it was. I was very proud to be there. There were events all through the previous week. The president of Finland came over, and events out of the embassy in Washington, and lots of different organizations around the Midwest. There were events that evening, which was the Flag Day of Finland. Lipupäivä. Would be there were events in Duluth. I'm sure there were some in Michigan and Wisconsin, and the same night. But we had a special one, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to jump ahead of songs if you have a certain set list in mind, but I certainly don't want to let you go too far before we talk about Ikitie, as that was very recent and quite a big deal.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do a softer song before that one, because I rest my voice a little bit. I was spent the whole first part of this month in a tent show that was performing outside, so my voice is a little shot. I thought I would do one though that would go back. It's and it will prime us for Punainen in a way. But I was talking about refugees going around the world and so forth. There was a song, most of the songs that I know that I perform these days, I know where I got them. I might have learned it from a book, or I might have heard it from a particular artist, and whatever. I have a few songs I have no idea where they came from, and I know that I didn't write them, but because I'm not that eloquent of a Finnish writer. But there's a song that particularly struck me called Turvaton, which means without shelter. And there's so many people these days in that position. I cannot, for the life of me, remember where I learned this song. It's also on the album, Suomi album, by the way. In fact, I'm going to read you the translation because I wrote it out so I would understand, I could explain it better, but let's see here. Let's see. Anyway, well, I'll keep talking while I'm doing this. It's about a young boy who's without shelter out in the world. And okay, that would be way over here. All right, there we go. It says, I am a poor boy without shelter, like a bird in the sky who is created for flight. You little bird, rest in your own nest. For me, there's nowhere in the world. The mother protects the baby bird with her wings, but the snowy winter storm is my covering. That's how the words go. Very poignant. So I've been doing research trying to find out where in the heck did this come from. And the only place I could find in the internet that I could find a reference to this song was about the great Finnish playwright and woman, defender of women's rights. She was one of the great literary figures of Finland in the 19th century, named Minna Kant. And she wrote a lot of plays and so forth. Some have been turned into movies, and one was a television series nowadays, but she was a remarkable woman. And she had a children's play called Kävelin Kerran, which means good luck children. And it was performed in 1888. And stuck in the middle of one of the acts is this song, sung in by some people, and with slightly different lyrics. But so I know that this song is at least older than 1888. So I don't know where I got it, but it's kind of a, I really have always kind of, not that I've ever been in this position, but I've always kind of related to this song. Voi minua poika raukkaa, kun olen turvaton. Voi minua poika raukkaa, kun olen ikään kuin taivaan lintu, milleen tuon luotu on. Ikään kuin taivaan lintu, milleen tuon luotu on. Lepäpälintunenkin omassa pesässään. Lepäpälintunenkin omassa pesässään. Vannulle maailmassa koutoa missäkään. Vannulle maailmassa koutoa missäkään. Turvaton. Emänsä linnun poika sivilän suojelee. Emänsä linnun poika sivilän suojelee. Lumilan talven tuiksu vanua peittelee. Lumilan talven tuisku vanua peittelee. Turvaton. Turvaton. Well, there's a spooky little sound in that song, which I think was a tornado alert on my phone. So I may be Turvaton before I do long myself here. Well, I'm gonna turn this off for sure. Sorry about that, folks.
Be safe over there, Eric.
Yeah, well, we will. Okay, here we go. Yeah, there we go. All right. Something I should have done earlier, but anyway. So the other one is Punainen you were talking about. Growing up, it's hard for Finns a lot of the time in this country because, especially my previous generations to me, because first of all, you're very proud of who you are, and almost to the point of ridiculousness sometimes, but there was also a lot of prejudice against Finns from the time they started arriving in this country. There was all kinds of different things. I mean, but a lot of the ones who came in the second or third wave of immigration in the early 20th century, a lot of them had some radical ties with the Civil War in Finland and also the labor movement and so forth. And they were very involved with the labor. And some of them, as soon as they got into a mine, they started organizing unions here in the Iron Range in Minnesota and Michigan and Wisconsin. And they also had reputations for drinking a lot and in some carrying knives and sort of things like that. And there was even a erroneous idea that the Finns weren't actually completely white either. Because their language is not Indo-European, their language has origins in Western Asia. So they were able to use yellow peril laws of immigration to try to keep Finns out of things that they used to use against the Chinese and Asians as well. And they would call them Mongolians and that sort of thing. So this song references all these prejudices that were against Finns. And interestingly enough, in the early 20th century, the federal judge had to pass a ruling in Duluth that Finns were actually white people. It had to go to that point. But Punainen was a song I wrote back somewhere a while back, and it was I wrote about all this stuff. I played it a little bit. When I went over to Finland one time, I was playing it for my friend Hannu and his son Topi, who's now quite an acclaimed folk singer. And Topi started singing this song at folk festivals, I guess, the last several years, and because he loved it. And so a guy who was supposed to gather music for this new film being done about Finnish radicals invited by the Russians to form this Finnish Republic called the Great Karelian Experiment. To come to Karelia, and you can live in a worker's paradise and so forth. And a lot of Finnish Americans and Finnish Canadians went over. And it turned out to be quite the opposite. It was a very tragic story that unfolded. But anyway, this song sort of fit what a person like that might have sung in Finnglish and so forth. And so he was singing it, and the guy who was gathering songs for this film said, "I need that song in this film. Where's this song from?" And he told him, "Oh, there's this guy in America that wrote that song." He says, "Well, give me his number." So they called me and asked me if they could use the song, and I said, "Absolutely, feel free to use it." And then, to my consternation, about a few weeks later, they said, "Do you want to be in the movie singing the song?" So I said, "Well, okay." So I went over and we filmed in Estonia, in a place that was similar to where the movie was supposed to take place. Okay, so this is called Punainen. Now, for those of you who are not Finnish speakers, Punainen means red. They were sure that all Finns were red, and they all weren't, but and then you can also just say Puna as well too, as being red. So this is Puna, Puna, Puna. You'll catch on. I'll sing the background vocals in this song with my lead vocal. And if any of you out there want to just join in and sing along with me, these lines go Puna, 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 Punainen. You can join right in if you want to. Toivo Mäki ja goddamn Finn. Puna, 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 Punainen. Curse his name, blacklist him. Puna, 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 Punainen. Always talking that Bolshevik line. You let that troublemaker down in the mine, and you'll have a union in record time. With that Puna, 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 Punainen. Puna, 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 Punainen. I think he's a Mongolian, don't you know? Puna, 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 Punainen. When he gets drunk, he will eat you whole. Puna, 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 Punainen. There's no depravity that he lacks. This funny little language goes a clickety-clack. Always got a Cuckoo ready for your back. Puna, 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 Punainen. Say Puna, 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 Punainen. Miney Bossy, forgive me. Puna, 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 Punainen. If I've offended you on Dixie, Puna, 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 Punainen. 'Cause you are mighty, you are grand, got that power in the palm of your hand. So how can it be that I'm twice the man? Listen, Puna, 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 Punainen. Puna, 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 Punainen. Punainen.
Yes, yes. Marcus has kindly dropped a link into the comment section for a trailer for the film, which came out a few years ago, and it also won some awards. Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, it was interesting because they had some really great actors. From some of the best of the Finnish actors were in this movie. It's a very large cast. In fact, it was a very large budget for a Finnish film. Small by American standards, but they had many, many people in this film. And and actors from Sweden and Denmark in this movie as well. It won just about every award that year, just in almost every category. It won Best Director, Best Writer and it was based on a book by Antti Turri, and he was involved with it all. AJ Anila was the director, and it was just a tremendous cast, and it was such a privilege to be part of it. I was very fearful when I went over there. I've never been in a film before. I've been in the theater before, but it turned out to be a very relaxing experience because you sit around a lot and you do things over and over again. So it was not too hard at all. But I had such a great time, and I got to go over for the premiere and see everybody again. And yeah, it was just so exciting. It won about every category. There was no category for individual songs, so I was not really in the running, but I think the music won overall. This whole soundtrack contributed by orchestrators and so forth, and a couple of other singers' songs. So I was very proud to be part of it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you just mentioned you have been a part of a lot of theater, but not a lot of film, as you mentioned. So I know that theater has been a big part of your life, and you've had many successful scores that you've written for shows. Would we have time to hear something from one of your current projects, or from one of your?
Well, I'll play one from a current project. I've gotten older. I don't know. I've started to notice this. I don't know if anybody else has. I have to look in the mirror every day and remind myself I'm not the young person my brain thinks I am. But so I'm working on a project. It's sort of very nebulous right now. It has a bunch of songs, but I noticed that the common thread amongst all these are aging and different types of experiences getting into the later part of life. So I might have to go join up with a couple of my former colleagues and collaborators on this one. But I wrote a song. This is more of a music theater type song, different, not as folky. I better take a drink here. I look at people even older than myself sitting around town here. They're the inspiration for this. Long in the tooth, long in my nose, long in my ears, and short in my clothes. And never a lingering thought of repose. That final one I made, and now and then, I suppose. Now and then, I suppose. Find a penny on the ground. Pick it up, don't leave it. It could be a sign from the divine. And that young girl's sweet perfume, open wide and breathe. Let it dance around your mind in another time. Oh, walking in the park, daylight getting dark, but I still got my legs. And look, on that table left behind, someone's half-drunk glass of wine. Who knows what's in those dregs? A little laughter, maybe a tear, an ounce of courage, an ocean of fear, a fading reflection, somebody's face. Who knows what we're scattering all over the place. On that corner over there, there used to be a barber. They say his son went on to fame, got quite a name. Now I used to know this town, but every day gets harder. So few landmarks remain, it's not the same. And this penny from the ground, hold it close, believe it. And let it be your sign from the divine. In this old world's sweet perfume, open wide and breathing, if only for a time, such a little time. Long in the tooth, long in my nose, long in my ears, short in my clothes. Never a lingering thought of repose. That final one I mean, now and then, I suppose. Now and then, I suppose.
Yes, beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You have quite a bit still ongoing, quite a few current projects that you are still working on.
Yes. Yeah, I am. I'm working on. We're just going to be starting a new. I was going to start a new solo record, which would include a lot of my old unrecorded Finnish songs. With my friend Dakota Dave Hall has quite a beautiful studio in his house, and we were going to do it there. And now we're also going to be doing a duet album, Dakota Dave and I. I don't know if you know who Dakota is. He's one of the great fingerstyle guitarists in the United States. We knew each other when we were very young, and so we've been together, playing together for over 50, almost 55 years. So we'll be doing that, and then I'm working on this theater project, and doing house concerts. If anybody's out there who wants to do a house concert, go to my website and Eric Peltoniemi at Facebook. It's not a full-blown website, but go to my Facebook page and let me know, and I'd love to talk to you about a house concert. If they can, they're still doing them in this COVID time. But anyway, so it's there's that, and then I'm also we revived a show that I did about the Spanish Civil War just a couple years ago in Berkeley and at the University of California in their main playhouse there. So that was a fun thing to do. That was about a play we did about the Spanish Civil War and a lot of the Americans who went to fight for the Abraham Lincoln Battalion or Brigade over in Spain, many of whom were Finns, by the way. And so that's stuff like that. We're hoping to remount that show again too. So
that's great. As a quick point of question, for people that want to purchase your music, you mentioned you may have found some extra Suomi records. I don't know if you did. That was a possibility.
I don't have any CDs. I have some cassettes, and I don't know if anybody even has a cassette player anymore out there. But I have cassettes down there. I guess I should have sent you my address. They could contact me directly on my email if you want to post that at any time. I don't mind that being posted.
Okay.
And also my Facebook page is just go to Eric Peltoniemi in Facebook and you'll get me.
Marcus has been doing great work with links, posting links. He just posted your Facebook page there, so people can reach out to you and contact you directly to purchase music or to book house shows.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm going to talk. We have to talk to the guys at Aino Records, which is sort of inactive these days in Finland, who did Suomi album, and talk about doing a re-release of the CD. Last time I was over there, they were talking about doing a vinyl version of it. I don't know if that'll ever come to pass, but
that would be great.
That would be cool. Yeah.
now might be a good time. We've had several folks raise hands and ask some questions in the comments. Now might be a good time, if you're open to it, to field some Q&A questions from the audience. Marcus, can I hand it to you to ask some of those Q&A box questions?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few things that have popped up, and some you've actually handled. Someone asked for just a little bit more information about the movie itself and your role. You spoke a little bit about that, but if you'd like to talk a little bit more about that, I think that might be nice. And then we've got a couple others, but we'll start with that one if that's all right.
It was kind of a moving year for me, because we had this show we did about my friend Peter Glazer and I originally did at Northwestern University in Chicago, and then he became part of the faculty at Berkeley, and we remounted it a couple of years back in Berkeley. It was about the environment in the 30s in the United States, about the radical era with laborers and the struggles of the Depression and so forth. And as I mentioned, many young Italians and Jewish guys especially, and a huge amount of Finns went over to Spain to try to defend the Spanish Republic against the uprising by Franco and his generals, who were backed by Hitler and Mussolini. Of course, they lost that struggle. But so I was dealing with that subject matter with Peter, and I had written this play, which was very emotional. We had talked to some old veterans of the Spanish Civil War where they were still alive, including a couple here in this country, here in Minnesota that I talked to. And that was one side of all the labor struggle. The other side was the Ikitie movie side of it, where a lot of Finns who were struggling in the upper UP and in Canada and Ontario with their lives and so forth, being enticed to go over to right across the border from Finland in Karelia by proxies of Stalin and so forth, to come over and start this Finnish Republic. And the main problem with that was they were too successful, and the local people were too envious, and then Stalin decided he better crush this as quickly as he could. So I was dealing it from both sides. It was very moving. A good friend of mine who's a folklorist and folk singer in Petrozavodsk in Russia, Arto Rinne, he's performed here in the United States several times, but Arto was a consultant on that film. It was very meaningful. Arto's grandfather was executed by Stalin in the woods, as it's portrayed in that movie. It was very personal for him. And I got to meet, Antti Turi, who's a great Finnish author who wrote the book. We got to get along, made great friendships. So it was a wonderful thing. But I would say this: if you're going to rent the film, it is on Netflix. It's Ikitie. It's not a walk in the park. It's a very dark movie about a very dark time. It's an excellent film, but it's when my son got to finally see it, he was just, I can't talk for a day now. He said after I saw this, because it was just, it's really a powerful film. So that's the only thing I'll say in advance. But it's a wonderful film. The photography is tremendous. And the acting's wonderful. So there's that.
Thanks, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
We also had a question about the Finnish triangle and what is the Finnish triangle. And I should note, I did, because I remember Kip getting this question at NISWA a couple of years ago. And so I dug up the link from NISWA of his explanation of the Finnish triangle. So I've included that in the chat. But yeah, I mean, people are wondering, what is the Finnish triangle?
Well, the joke with the Finnish triangle is he says it's a triangle with one point being New York Mills, one point being Monaga, one point being Sabika, and another point being Wolf Lake. So it's obviously not a triangle. There's 4 points to this thing. So it's kind of a joke. It was most of the areas that people are familiar with Finns in the United States are, at least in the Midwest, are the UP, Upper Wisconsin, and Minnesota. A lot of my relatives came through the UP, and I have cousins up in the UP. My dad spent a lot of time up there growing up. We have some cousins that worked in the mines, in the lumber camps. But most of the people who ended up in what is called the Finnish Triangle ended up being farmers. And it's in western or eastern Otter Tail County primarily. Goes a little bit into Becker County and a little bit into Wadena County. But it's a lot of Finns. It's like the old Finnish Finnish American radio comedian that used to say, portray a Finnish American guy, says, "I'm not Finnish, but my English teacher was," because he had such a thick accent. But there are guys around there who speak with Finnish accents who don't know a word of Finnish except for a couple swear words, but they still have Finnish accents. So it was an interesting place to be. Culturally, it was interesting to be for me because the other side of my family was sort of standard Scandinavian background, Swedish and some Norwegian. And fortunately, my mother passed away before when we found out she was actually part Finnish. She would have been outraged by that. Those were kind of calm people. They were just kind of, you're like a lot of people, like they're not too dissimilar from the German kids, parents, grandparents. The Finns to me were very exotic, even from the time I was a little kid. They seemed different. Yeah, they were just, it was just kind of a thing that fascinated me about going there. Sauna was a big deal, it was, the old Finnish ladies who could barely speak English would, embrace you and all this sort of thing, but their accents were so thick. It was very, it was a great experience, cultural experience. It's kind of dwindling now down. There's very few Finnish speakers left around there anymore, but they still like to extol their Finnish heritage in New York Mills, especially.
Great, thank you. We also had a question. We've had a couple of requests for songs, and so I'll leave that up to you. But we had one. You had mentioned a lullaby about a loon. And we had someone saying that kind of rang a bell and was interested in either if you are willing to sing it or to talk about it a little bit.
I was trying to remember it just this morning in case somebody asked me that. I didn't remember most of the words, but I can give you the first few lines of it if that'll jog their memory. Kikeri, kikeri, kakeri, lin, kikeri, kakeri, lin, da, da, da. I have to get that in my repertoire. So this is my oldest hit from when my grandpa was singing it to me. Sorry, I don't know the rest of it. My apologies.
No, that's awesome though. Thank you. And then the other request we had was about Paimenlaulu.
Oh, okay. That one I might need to get my words out for. I love that song. If I'd have to go, do I have it? I can maybe open it up on my computer. You can still hear me, I assume. Let's see here. Paimenlaulu. Yeah, that's a good one. Can you still see me, folks?
We sure can.
Okay.
And you sound great.
All right. This is an interesting song. I just loved it. It's a lullaby. At first, I didn't know where it came from, but some friends of mine in Finland found out it had been included in a bunch of kind of, I guess in German classical music, you'd call it lieder songs, kind of semi-classical songs based on folkloric themes or based on old folk songs. And there was a Finnish folk song, Finnish composer back in the late 1800s of the last century, a guy named Pietri Juhana Hanikainen, and he was a pianist and a composer, and he published this in a collection of songs. And then I was digging deeper on my own, and I found out he basically just translated a German song. This is actually a German shepherd song It was also collected by a German classical composer named Otto Clauwel. So it has kind of a circuitous route. And now that I heard that it was originally a German song, like from the Alps, shepherds up in the Alps, it kind of makes sense to me. But I'll sing it in Finnish, which is the only way I know it. But I need this little chart to remind me of what I'm doing here. And there's a chorus that goes two, 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 teli, two, 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 teli, two. That's the sound of his little horn that the shepherd boy is blowing. The shepherd boy is up in the hills with his sheep or cattle. He's actually a cowherd, I should say. And he's blowing one of these great instruments in Finland, a birch bark wooden horn, which they like to play. He's sitting there playing, and the second verse talks about all the birds are singing around him and how beautiful. And in the last verse, he talks about coming home in the evening, and the woods are ringing with his horn, which is going two, 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 tally, two. Maolin paimen poikanen, ain iloinen kuin kepponen, ja päivät pitkät soitan vain, mä tuohi torvellaan. Two, 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 teli, two. 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 Kun karjan kellot kilkavat ja lintuset, kun laulavat, niin kuuluu silloin hauskalta, kun vastaan torvellaan. Everybody. Two, 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 teli, two. 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 Ja illan tullen karjainen kun palja, niin lystikseen viel annan itsen rinnasta, näin torven raikkua. Two, 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 teli, two. 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 Two, 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 teli, two.
That was wonderful. Thank you. We got a lot of wonderful comments there. A lot of thank you comments about for that. So that was great. I'll throw in a little extra here context. Jim Leary and Carl Rakinen have added some more to the Kikeri Kakeri discussion. That Jingo Vashan had a mixed version there. Kikeri Kakeri Kirjavalintu, grab him by the ankles and throw him out the window. And then it's also very common Schottish.
Oh, it is, yeah.
That folks dance to. So.
I used to hear it somewhat. I heard it, we used to have Finnish festivals up on the Iron Range in the old Iron World, and I would hear it now and then, but it's one I never even bothered to learn. And my mother, when she passed away just a few years ago, was in a rest home near the end, and she says, I don't know why you sing those Finnish songs, because you were imprinted. Your grandpa used to sing that kikuri kakari song to you all the time. They'd take me over to the Finnish neighbors, and all they do was talk Finn. I wish I had their accent. My old lousy accent creeps in periodically, like I did on that last song on a couple words. But I'd like to ask my parents, now that they're both gone, like we all do, certain questions. And my one grandfather, who was from Kemijärvi, I'm sure had a totally different accent than his wife, who was actually from the Swedish side of the Tornio River in Kaurinki, and just north of Tornio. And I'm sure they had different accents. They talk differently. And if my dad knew that as a kid, he recognized they were different. So forth. Now I've got creeping Ostrobathian accent in, because all the people I know are from Keski-Pohjanmaa in the west of Finland. So now a little of that creeps into my pronunciation now. My bastard Finn.
It's the best.
I remember
Finn.
you telling me though, Eric, that that's part of the charm of your records in Finland, is that the people advised you not to get too good.
Yeah, it was when they first wanted me over there, and we were playing we played in Kauston. I'd have these huge audiences, and people already knew some of the songs, and they're older people and young people. I was just totally bewildered. I thought, I'm singing terribly. My accent is terrible. Why do they like this? And I thought, maybe they think I'm exotic or something. Kind of like when we hear Julio Iglesias trying to sing an American song when he had his accent. So I thought, I hope I don't screw it up, whatever I'm doing, because I'm enjoying playing over here. The last trip I was over there, we went up to Humpila, which is in kind of west of Tampere, and we had a beautiful time in a house up there, up in the countryside. And my friend Vesa, who was kind of my guy I hang out with, he actually gives me an apartment every time I go over there. I was singing some songs. He said, "You're starting to sing these a little too well. Your accent is a little too," he says, "don't get too good." So he confirmed my fears that I shouldn't. So anyway.
Well, we might have time. Maybe Marcus, maybe one more question or so, or maybe two.
I'm free, whatever your time is.
Yeah, I think let's. We've got two more here, so I think let's try to grab those two. And you had spoken a little bit about the some of the more radical aspects of Finnish immigrants, and we've got a question here. Just asking your opinion on the contribution of Viola Turpinen's music to small Finnish communities, but also to the workers' halls.
Yes, yeah. She was the goddess of Finnish American folk music in the early 20th century. One of the biggest honors of my life was I got to do a concert down in Lake Worth, Florida, where a lot of Finns live down there from Finland, and they retire down there. And there's a club that's been there since the days of viola, and it's called Kerhotalo. And you go in there, it's just like history's all around you, and posters and things. And it was kind of intimidating, but I did a concert there, and I was just thinking, this is where viola was performing all the time. Yeah, she did, and I think she performed. It was hard to be a Finn because a lot of people were against you. I mean, and they had never been a country of their own. They were always the eastern provinces of Sweden. And then, of course, when Sweden lost the war in the early 1800s with Russia, Russia took it over and turned it into a grand duchy. And so when the Romantic movement started at the end of the 1800s and the Finns decided they wanted to be free, things like the Kalevala were written, and Sibelius was writing music, and Kävelin Kerran was painting great pictures. They took the opportunity for freedom in 1917 when the Russian Revolution was going on, thinking this is probably our one chance to be our own country. And yet there was a civil war there between the white and the red. And so a lot of the Reds and they never being in that position where Finns are in power and control, and they came over here and they were blacklisted. And so people like the Finn halls were so uplifting for them. They weren't all radical. Some were labor, some were temperance halls. my great-grandfather was in the Temperance Hall because he was Laestadian. But some of them were just, they'd have drama clubs, people put on plays. It was just a tremendous thing. And it would really, and then they started their own, in the range, they started Masabi Park, Masaba Park over there, which was for people who were blacklisted from going to the other resources for workers in Kävelin. She was the hero to everybody. I think either side of whatever politics would have been, they all loved her. She was magnificent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final question here is actually about your playing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still play the button box accordion?
Do I still play button box?
Do you play any button box accordion?
No, if you think you're thinking that my brother and I are the same person, possibly. No, he's, I tried, when he first started playing button box, we also liked Scottish and folk music and stuff like that too. And there was a guy named Alistair Anderson, who you may or may not know, who's one of the great concertina players in Britain, up from Northumberland. And he was here and he was showing Kip how to play concertina, and Kip went and bought a concertina, and I tried playing it and I gave up instantly. I couldn't see how my brother wanted to do this, why he was doing this. And as time went on, I thought, geez, he's getting good. and it was really great for him. He started writing his own songs. He writes a lot of humorous songs. And he's sort of like, I consider him sort of like, people may not be familiar with it, but I kind of consider him sort of like Utah Phillips in regular folk music. He's kind of like a Finnish Utah Phillips with his yarns and everything and the funny songs he does. So, yeah.
Great,
Well,
thank you.
I'm not, it's not me.
Yeah,
I think
go
ahead.
But I was just gonna say, I think one of the things I appreciate so much is just the way your family is this wonderful, these bearers of these amazing Finnish American traditions, and you do it in your own very specific ways, but are part of this wonderful community. So I really appreciate hearing, some of that almost like brotherly love, but brotherly competition also.
There's
really
there's
wonderful.
A lot of that, yeah. But I was the older brother, so it was less of a threat to me. But we were very close in age. But I think it drove him onward to become the fine musician that he is. And as it was, I kind of quit playing for many years because I got so involved with the record label, it just consumed my life. I started slowly doing less and less concerts and so forth. And I was also working in theater projects from a writer's standpoint. He ran with it, and he became the big star of the family as far as being a musician.
I think it's worth highlighting Carl Rockinen's comment here that says, Eric, I think your Finnish friends, who are also my friends, love you since you are a genuine folk musician and a kindred spirit. And I would certainly agree with that as well, Carl.
Kiitoksia, Carl.
Tosi kiitos.
Yeah.
I do want to say a quick thank you to Marcus for all of the comments and running this show. Thank you to you, Eric, for being here. It's a privilege and an honor to have you as part of this FinnFest event. And also to let folks know, perhaps I should pass this comment over to Marcus. We are going to be posting this on YouTube, and there will be an archived version of this if you didn't catch the whole thing and you want to come back to sections of it. And all of the links will be accessible as well. We will have those copied for future reference. But thank you to both of you for being part of the conversation and performance. Eric, it was a real special event. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate it very much. Thank you, everybody who's listening.
Thank you so much, everyone. And as a final reminder, we'll be having the FinnFest year will continue. And so you can join us. I should probably pull up the actual date so I don't lie to anyone here. October 30th, same time. Michael Laukkanen will be talking about filming Finnish American folk dance music in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So please do join us for that as well. Again, thank you so much. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Nate. Thank you all for being here. This was a lot of fun, and we'll see you next time.